Howdy partners, welcome back to the Forex Fortress, and we have plenty to talk about today as once again Bitcoin making new all-time highs, and of course we want to follow up on yesterday's short-term and medium-term time frame analysis on all the major Forex pairings, plus prepare for the weekly closures. And as always, the big focus is going to be on Dixie, and I want to make this as fast as possible so that my upload time is going to be as fast as possible as well. So with that said, starting off with Dixie, we did see that hit it, or sorry, not hidden, but regular bullish divergence, of which we had 1, 2, 3 drives on the lows right here, play out to our targeted region just above 90 bucks, of which I would now be cognizant of the weekly closure. Remember, this area is coming in at a macro level, testing around the last major bottom that we did see in February 2018. So I would be looking for bounces here regardless. We did see almost a very low side target. This one hit. Close enough is close enough in this case. And I would be saying that as long as this weekly does maintain a closure of 89 3/4, I would be looking for the next few weeks to likely grind this area out, maybe even another few wicks down to, below that region. However, I would look for it to try to put in a little bit of a local low and perform a bit of a bouncy bounce here on the short and medium term time frames, targeting at the very least 90 and 32.5 cents. However, I would be looking for a more prolonged bounce over time. Probably does take a few weeks to be fair, into the $91.5 region, and then we'll come back to it after that. So with that said, that means I am going to be having caution on a lot of the major US dollar pairings. Let's actually go into the low term time frames really quickly here. Low-term time frames actually looks like they want to come back down short-term. In fact, I would be looking for this one to come back down somewhere around 89.5 short-term, but still looking for some bottoming action here. And let's go down the list now, starting off with good old Aussie Dollar, of which Aussie Dollar in the short-term time frames looks like wants to have another stab back up towards the prior high on this run, right around 78 cents. Other than that, though, I would be waiting for the weekly closure here. Obviously, if the weekly does close above this pivot, above 77.7, then I would look for this rally to continue upwards and onwards towards our next major area, which is going to be a little bit further north, around just below 79 cents, actually. This would be more long-term, so probably for the next few weeks, but yes, I would still remain bullish on this one. Let's go to its lesser bullishly inclined brother, Mr. CAD dollar, right on over here, and this one looking a lot more like rejection off the 377 exponential average and also off of our long-term diagonal trend line, which has been getting the highs ever since May 2015, so I really do like that. Going down to a daily, I would be, short-term bearish on this one, looking for a move back down somewhere around about 78.25, and on a 4 hour, downside angled here as well, looking for a move back down 78.5 short term, so a little bit more downside. Actually, this one is significantly different than what we see on Aussie Dollar, which is rather interesting because we don't typically see that. Moving on to Swiss franc dollar, short term, we did get a move back onto the upside that we spoke about yesterday, I do believe. Yes, we're seeing it right here, right now. Nice one. And more importantly, would I be looking for this one to try a little bit more to the upside? Yes, indeed I would. I'd be looking to extend this run towards 113.39 region. And on the weekly, what sort of closures would I be looking for? Anything above 113.25 is going to look overall good, but I want to see that confirmed first before we talk about it, which will be clarified next week, I suppose. Moving on to Eurodollar, what do we see right here? A big wick on that one right now. Eurodollar is looking a lot more downside going in the short term, actually. This one looks like a clear rejection and looks like it wants to slink on over once again. Short term, I'd actually be looking for it to retest yesterday's low, and if that condition is met even just by taking out yesterday's low, not even closing below there, I would extend that run significantly further south towards 121.5. In fact, on the daily right here, that is still saying be cautious. It's not necessarily bearish just yet. Obviously still an uptrend and still bouncing off the 21, so it's kind of hard to be bearish off this. I'd still wait for the weekly closure. Now, if the weekly does close above 122.5, I would be bullish into next week, looking for this week's high to get tested once again, and probably new highs on top of that. But short term, it actually does look like it wants to slink on a little bit further south. Moving on to pound yen, what do we see right here? Oh my God, this one's actually going to bust on through, isn't it? Jesus Christ, man. Powerful pound yen. This pump and dump shitcoin here looks like it wants to actually pop back up towards 140, basically 142 actually. Now I would still wait for today's daily and weekly closure. However, this is looking very likely. Yeah, I think it's more of a formality. Yeah, 142 would be my area. Pound dollar, what do we see right here? Not as strong, certainly. This one actually looking a lot more toppy on the short-term time frame. So we have bearish divergence, we have 1, 2, 3 drives, and a jewel sell signal. I'm bearish on this one. I'd be looking for this one to come back down into next week towards 133.5 right there. On a 4 hour, are we downside angled here too? No, we're not. Actually, 4 hour looks like it wants to have another move back up towards 136.5. So that would be short-term up, medium and long-term down, looking like, or at least medium-term down, long-term. I want to see the weekly close. Moving on to yen dollar, what do we see right here? Short-term up, I'd be looking for it to pop back up towards 966, somewhere in this region right here. That is still going to be on higher lows, so still have to kind of like this as far as the general trend goes on the daily. So yes, I'd be looking for a move back up, about 96.60 we'll call it. Weekly, however, is... Wow, actually weekly, I would probably be looking for next week to come back down. So short term, yeah, a short term move to the upside, followed by likely next week coming back down towards about 95.50. This, not to say that I'm bearish on this chart. I'm still very much bullish on this chart long term, but short term, yeah, a little bit of downside there implied. Moving on to Nasdaq, do we have new highs towards 1300? I believe we do, or sorry, 13,000 that is. I believe we do. Yes, indeed, we do. Fucking nice. And I still stick with my long term target based off the measure move, based off the FIB extensions, which is really good confluence right there towards 13,150. This has been in there for literally more than 2 to 3 months now, or sorry, about 2 months now here. So I still stick with that. And once again, you can kind of follow up over time that these things typically do take time, but well, there they go. And I'd probably even have upside targets on top of that over time as well. Moving on to gold. Gold, very interesting right here, actually. I think I'm going to be phenomenally wrong about my further targets to the upside on gold. Now, we did hit our 1950 target, but after that, I said that was probably that was probably going to be overdone by another $100 moves to the upside. That's not looking like it right now. This one's looking like a lower high as it stands. So I will obviously want to see today closed. But if you see any sort of a closure below 1870, obviously bearish if that happens. Now, if we do close back above, let's call it especially like 1890 or 1900, I would still remain with a slight upside bias here, but this is not looking good on the weekly and certainly not looking good on the daily. To be honest, I should be bearish on this one. You know, I'm going to switch around to being short-term downside on this one. I think it comes down back towards 1860 and probably even drives for 1840 coming into next week. This is looking like a clear failure, clear fake out. Yeah, I think I'm just going to be straight up wrong on that one. Anyways, moving on to Bitcoin shitcoin. What do we have for here? I think still with Bitcoin, you know, obviously it's very exciting that it is heading up back above 40,000. We do see that the 2.618 is getting tested right now at 41,250, where Bitcoin price actually seems to kind of be oscillating around, but that's just relevant for the short-term time frames. Ultimately, 43,000 is on the table, and I know that this does sound crazy and everything, but I just looking at the volume signature on the higher term time frames, this run is still supported. We do see a little bit of fall off on volume here, but we haven't even put in a high just yet, so that is inconsequential in and of itself. And more importantly, with that last 12-hour close, we do see further continuation to the upside. Momentum also to stay high, hidden bullish divergence, although that's mostly played out to be fair, and no divergences just yet. So I'm unwilling to call a top until we see that. Obviously, it's going to happen really, really fast, but what I would still say is I'd stick with, I guess we have this chart right here, which actually Caretaker's STC is showing 42,150 to the upside, so that's nice. But that's just relevant for the short term hourly, so that's not really what I want to be focusing on right here. I'm going to go over here to the secondary charts instead, and what we'll do now is we are going to, hey, get off my fucking screen, there we go, and where's my, no, I don't want Bitcoin, I want Bitstamp, and here we are. Okay, sweet one. So what I'd still be sticking with is the daily and 2-day closure, what's going to be happening tonight. If it does maintain above the topside trend band, which is about 40,000 bucks right now on the daily, and on the 2-day, it's going to be 37,650. I would be looking for new all-time highs coming into this next week of trading, and I still stick with those areas of interest to the upside: 43,000, 46,000, and I believe it was somewhere around 50,000 as well. We'll obviously document that tomorrow in tomorrow's morning video, and of course, if you want that information, just watch this morning's video as well. It's going to go into much more detail than I'll do on this video for Bitcoin. But yeah, I still mostly stick with upside biases here. It's looking good, and it's looking like it wants further continuation, and that is supported by both volume, volatility, and, or sorry, not volatility, that doesn't really matter for it, but open interest and of course price action and trends. So with all of that in mind, I still remain bullish cautiously, however, and with those areas in mind. So with that said, I want to wish you the best and the haps of the happiest. Let's actually talk about one invalidation level to the downside. One invalidation level. How about that? One invalidation level would be 39,500. If this level is broken right here, this one that I'm marking off right here, sorry, not this one and not this one, but just this one right here at 39,500. If that level is broken, I would look for a more meaningful downside move. Granted, it's just on the short-term time frames to be fair, and the target would be just below $37,000. So that is more than a $2,500 number. Move right there. So that'd be very much relevant, and then I want to come back and see it after that. But realistically, I'm not really looking for that. I'm mostly looking for Bitcoin to just kind of continue its upwards trajectory here. So with that said, I know that things look crazy, but I would like to wish you the best and the haps of the happiest. We're over here on Twitch right now live, and with that said, I salute you, and until next time.